Michael Collins, and me to be chosen as the crew for this historic mission. Neil and I had worked together on the backup crew of Apollo 8, the first mission to orbit the moon in Christmas of 1969. And the three of us had trained for nearly 6 months in preparation for this audacious 8-day journey. And so on the morning of July 16, 1969, the 360-foot-tall Saturn V rocket stood magnificently as the countdown progressed to liftoff. Due to the seating order, I was the last to enter on board the command module, while Neil and Mike took the elevator up to the very top of the towering rocket. I stood 2 flights down on the gantry. And as I looked out, I could see the sunrise over the waves of Cocoa Beach. I saw the flickering campfires and the evidence of thousands of people gazing up as the countdown continued. At 9:32 a.m., the engines ignited and roared with 7 million pounds of thrust to gently lift over 3,000 tons of mankind's ingenuity in the form of a rocket launcher, command module, service module, and the lunar landing module encased within. And the 3 of us securely strapped in up at the top with our helmets on. Within minutes, we felt the increasing heavy effect of 3 Gs tripling our body weight after we cleared the gantry and rocketed skyward. What a send-off it was as we began our historic journey to land and walk on the moon. It takes about 3.5 days to reach the moon. We traveled at varying speeds, leaving Earth at about 25,000 miles an hour and slowing down as we moved away from the Earth. Our fuel consumption, get this, at liftoff was about 5 inches to the gallon. Not very good. We can do better. NASA had estimated a 60% chance, and we agreed with this too, of successfully landing. That was the most important thing of Apollo, to land. And then do whatever we could after landing. But we really believed that there was a 95% chance, even if we didn't land, of safely returning back home. And we all kind of liked those odds. That was okay. Once we were in lunar orbit, Neil and I entered the lunar landing craft that we had named Eagle. And we separated from the command module Columbia, where Mike Collins remained, and we piloted the powered descent to the Sea of Tranquility. It was the most complicated and critical aspect of the entire mission. As we neared the surface, just a few minutes to go, we encountered unexpected 1201 computer alarm in the guidance system, followed by 1202 alarm, neither of which we really knew what it was about. As we were looking out the window, I was looking at the computer, and we were about to get up the dictionary to look up and see what it was. And with great concern, Houston went to work to advise us whether to abort or to continue for our landing. Fortunately, the team at NASA Mission Control deciphered the computer alarms as non-threatening computer overload problem, but it was not really threatening. In spite of these alarms, the 2 computers in the guidance and navigation system of our 2 spacecraft performed beautifully. They were the first to use integrated circuits. They carried out 7,000 instructions per second for minute rendezvous and landing maneuvers. And they could measure our velocity changes to 100th of a foot per second. Astonishingly, each computer had only about 65 kilobits of memory. Yes, it's true that my handheld BlackBerry and my iPhone with gigabits of built-in memory have more relatively computing power than the spacecraft. It took us to the moon. But my BlackBerry can't land. It can't land anybody on the moon. Actually, I'm in the process of developing a Buzz Aldrin application for my iPhone. So maybe by the time that Ashley and I get to show our stuff on Dancing with the Stars, you may be able to get a Buzz Aldrin application on your iPhone. Okay, back to landing on the moon. We're skimming over the moon's surface now at 15 feet per second. And we looked out and saw the landing site was filled with boulders. Not quite this bad, but it didn't look too good. So we adjusted our flight course to find a safer area, and we expended additional fuel, and by the time the Eagle touched down on its spindly legs on the surface, we had about 15, 20 seconds. The film said 10 seconds. But there really wasn't anybody there with a dipstick. We made it, the Eagle landed. Many had thought it impossible. Even the scientific community. There was a thought that on landing we would sink in 50 feet in the deep layers of moon dust. But we didn't believe that, neither did NASA. But the team did not lack due diligence. Filled with exhilaration that we were on the moon, now was it time to explore the lunar surface. With Neil already on the surface and taking a few pictures of me as I backed down from our home, I carefully backed down the ladder and partially closed the hatch, making sure not to lock it on my way up. You ever see that thing of the stupid guy coming down in his suit? And he hears behind him the hatch slam shut. And so what does he do? He says, "Where are my keys?" But anyway, as I stepped down on the fine talcum-like lunar dust, the first words that came to my mind were magnificent desolation. It was a magnificent accomplishment for humanity, for man to harness the technology to set foot on another world for the first time. And yet there was a desolation of that lunar landscape. No sign of life, no atmosphere, total blackness beyond the sunlit terrain. The environment was marked by harsh extremes. The temperature in the lunar daylight could be as high as 250 degrees Fahrenheit. While the lunar night, all that heat went away and it could get as cold as minus 250 degrees Fahrenheit. Even a contrast between walking in the direct sunlight and into the shadow of the lunar module we could feel in our air-conditioned spacesuits. Now these suits with our underwear were filled with about 300 feet of water-cooled underwear. Cold water going through Victoria's Secret. We spent about 2.5 hours outside our spacecraft collecting rocks, setting up experiments and taking a few photos. Now, in this experiment, I wasn't supposed to walk in front of the solar arrays. Those are my footsteps. Condemning evidence. That's why I want somebody to go up there, even the Chinese, so they can recognize my footsteps. But we planted the first American flag on the moon. 5 more flags were put at other landing sites during later Apollo missions. But this was my proudest moment when I stood there and saluted the American flag.